Hello, Libra. Let me ask you something. What if tomorrow isn't just another day but the moment your story begins to shift in a way that no one, not even your enemies, saw coming? This is not a typical horoscope reading. And this is not a coincidence. Your presence here right now is the result of a divine alignment. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. Something within you has been quietly calling out for answers, for clarity, for restoration. And now, the universe is responding. You see, Libra, energy doesn't lie. Even when people do. And right now, the energy around you is moving powerfully, deliberately toward resolution. Toward balance. Toward karmic closure. You may not have realized it, but every time you kept the peace when it was easier to lash out. Every time you chose truth over manipulation. Every time you stayed graceful in the face of betrayal. The universe was watching. And tomorrow, the scales begin to shift. Not with noise. Not with revenge. But with quiet, cosmic precision. Because justice, when it's real, doesn't have to scream. It just arrives. And Libra, it's arriving for you. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine a set of golden scales. One side has carried your sorrow, your patience, your unanswered prayers. The other side is about to be filled with everything that was meant for you: peace, clarity, respect, and a kind of inner strength that no one can shake loose ever again. Let me pause here, just for a moment, to offer my sincere gratitude. Thank you for being here, not just as a viewer, but as part of something sacred. Every like you leave, every comment you share, every time you subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, you help keep this sacred space alive. You help us bring messages like this to those who need it most. And believe me, your support means more than I can say. And if you're still listening, you already know this isn't about prediction. This is about remembrance. You're remembering who you are, a soul created for balance, for beauty, for justice. And no matter who tried to take that away, they can't erase what was never theirs to begin with. So before we go any further, I want you to ground this message in your own energy. Type in the comments, "I am ready to receive what is mine by divine right." Not just as a hope but as a declaration. Let the sacred number 6, symbol of harmony, speak back to you through signs, clocks, receipts, even dreams. If you see it, trust it. You're in sync. Stay with me, Libra, because what I'm about to share next is not just poetic. It's practical. And it will explain exactly why your enemies are panicking, and why you, my dear, are about to rise with more grace than ever before. Are you ready? Let's begin. When life begins to feel like a long hallway of closed doors, it's easy to forget that one of those doors isn't locked, it's simply waiting for the right moment to open. For you, dear Libra, that moment is drawing closer. The energy in your chart, with Venus, your ruling planet, aligning with Saturn across the Libra-Aries axis, is not just celestial movement, it's a realignment of your internal compass. And as that compass steadies, you are being drawn toward clarity, toward decisions you've avoided, and toward truths you've quietly carried. You may have sensed this shift already in subtle ways. Maybe you've started to see people differently, or perhaps you've begun hearing your own intuition more clearly, like a whisper you can no longer ignore. This isn't just coincidence. It's part of a larger unfolding, a return to your own equilibrium. While others may have mistaken your stillness for indecision, or your diplomacy for weakness, you know better now. You know that waiting doesn't mean passivity, it means listening. And you, Libra, have been listening deeply. This is a powerful time of karmic return. What has been held in silence will now be spoken. What has been hidden will surface. And it won't happen with chaos, but with unmistakable precision. That is the beauty of your energy. It doesn't force, it balances. It doesn't rage, it restores. The Justice card in your reading appears not as a threat, but as a gentle confirmation that rightness is real, that order, truth, and fairness always return home to those who have not betrayed them. At the same time, the Two of Swords reversed tells us something vital. You are no longer frozen in hesitation. Perhaps you've been torn between preserving peace and speaking your truth. Maybe you've been protecting others' comfort while silencing your own discomfort. But now, a deeper kind of clarity is emerging, one that requires no argument, no defense. The answers are within you, and you no longer need to weigh them against external approval. You are ready to choose. In the physical world, this may show up in choices you've postponed: ending a one-sided relationship, walking away from a toxic job, or simply saying what has long needed to be said. The moment of clarity doesn't always come with a bang. Sometimes it arrives like a clean breath after too much noise. And in that stillness, you will recognize the difference between what is right and what is merely familiar. Remember this: choosing alignment over avoidance isn't cruelty, it's courage. And while we're often taught to keep the peace at all costs, real peace never comes from self-abandonment. As one wise teaching reminds us, let your yes be yes, and your no be no. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't need to prove your worth. You simply need to trust that your inner balance knows when something is no longer aligned with your soul. This part of your journey is not about vengeance, nor is it about proving anyone wrong. It's about finally standing on ground that feels stable beneath your feet. It's about returning to your center, not to please others, but because you were never meant to live off balance in the first place. As the universe begins to unfold this new chapter before you, let it be a reminder that the most powerful justice comes not from outside verdicts, but from within, in the peace of knowing you stayed true to yourself. Sometimes strength doesn't look like resistance or loud declarations. Sometimes it shows up as grace in the middle of disrespect, or as silence in the face of provocation. And for you, dear Libra, that silence has never been weakness. It has always been discipline. It's the choice to think before reacting, to hold yourself in integrity even when it would be easier to prove a point or protect your pride. In a world that often rewards loudness, your softness, your poise has been a quiet revolution. There's something powerful happening within you now. The Queen of Swords appears in your reading not as a ruler hardened by coldness, but as a figure who has seen betrayal, absorbed its lessons, and now speaks with clarity, not vengeance. She is you, the part of you that still believes in fairness, but is no longer afraid to set boundaries. And while others may have mistaken your empathy for indecision, or your calm for passivity, they are beginning to see what you've always known: you are not to be taken lightly. This moment marks a shift, not only in how others perceive you, but in how you perceive yourself. For too long, perhaps, you've placed others' needs before your own, thinking that keeping the peace meant keeping quiet. But peace without self-respect is just self-erasure. And what you're learning now is this: being kind doesn't mean being available for everything. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your energy without guilt. There's a quiet wisdom that comes from restraint, from choosing not to retaliate, from choosing to step back and let time and truth do the speaking. But eventually, there comes a day when your voice returns to you clear, unwavering, and no longer willing to dim itself. That day is near. It may not be dramatic. It may arrive in the form of a simple sentence spoken aloud: "This is no longer okay with me." And that one sentence might shift an entire relationship, or free you from years of emotional imbalance. In many traditions, it's said that there is a time for everything, a time to be still, and a time to act. You've honored the stillness. You've waited. And now, you are being called to act, not with force, but with clarity. When you stand in your truth, even if your voice trembles, you remind others of what real strength looks like. It's measured. It's composed. And it doesn't need permission. Let go of the fear that people will misunderstand your boundaries. The right ones will adjust. The rest were only holding space where your peace was meant to grow. And when apologies finally arrive, as they often do, and often too late, you won't need them to validate your worth. You'll have already remembered it on your own. So if your voice has been quiet lately, ask yourself, is it because you've been waiting for the right moment, or because you forgot that what you have to say matters? The world needs your fairness. But more than that, you need your own loyalty. Sometimes, the most sacred promise you'll ever make is the one you keep with yourself, to stop explaining your value to people who never truly saw it. In your gentleness, there is truth. In your balance, there is unshakable power. And in your decision to finally speak, there is a new life waiting to unfold. Let it begin. There's something profoundly healing about learning to slow down and listen to your body, not just for its aches or fatigue, but for the quiet messages beneath the surface. For Libra, a sign so deeply attuned to others, it's easy to overlook internal signals while navigating external demands. You often carry emotional tension in the background, absorbing what others feel, weighing your responses so carefully that your own nervous system becomes the silent battlefield. But balance isn't just an ideal for you, it's a necessity. And right now, your body may be gently or not so gently calling you back to center. When stress accumulates, it rarely announces itself all at once. It disguises itself as hesitation, shallow breathing, a restless mind. You may not even recognize how much tension you've held until you exhale deeply and feel the release in your shoulders. One of the most compassionate things you can do for yourself in this season is to simplify your daily rhythm. Gentle morning rituals, a few minutes of stillness, a cup of chamomile or white tea, the soft hues of mint or rose surrounding you, these are not luxuries. They're real, grounding medicine for your Libra heart. In your career, the theme of harmony becomes even more important. You're not built to thrive in spaces that feel cold, chaotic, or overly competitive. Your creativity, logic, and interpersonal gifts come alive when you're in environments that value both beauty and fairness, places where collaboration is genuine and kindness is present. If you've been feeling out of sync with your current work or workplace, don't ignore that signal. Instead of rushing toward a dramatic change, start with clarity. Visualize what your ideal workspace feels like, not just what it looks like on the outside, but how it feels inside your chest when you imagine walking into it. There is a quiet truth here: the more clearly you can feel what you want, the more easily it can find its way to you. Not because of magic but because of alignment. Our actions follow our vision. And every day you choose to imagine better, even for 5 minutes, you reshape the trajectory of your life. Financially, this is a time to reflect on not just what you earn, but how that money supports the world you're building. For Libra, money has never been about status or accumulation. It's about creating beauty, peace, and freedom. It's about having enough to care for others without depleting yourself. The sacred numbers guiding you now: 6 for harmony, 2 for discernment, 9 for completion, all point to a shift. Something about the way you've managed money or relationships with money is coming to an end. And while endings can feel unsettling, this one holds a quiet promise: the tools you need to rebuild something healthier, softer, and more sustainable are already within you. You may be surprised to notice how financial changes and emotional healing often go hand in hand. As you set firmer boundaries with people, you'll likely find yourself making wiser decisions with resources. As you let go of guilt around wanting stability, you'll realize that being supported doesn't make you selfish, it makes you strong enough to support others in turn. Just as a kind word can change the energy in a room, a small act of self-respect can change the direction of your life. So give yourself permission to rest, to imagine, to dream of a reality where you don't just survive the day, you actually feel good in it. Remember the wisdom that tells us, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That includes the house within you, your mind, body, and heart. Let them come into agreement. Let balance be more than a goal. Let it become your way of being. Not everything that looks like love is rooted in respect, and you, Libra, are beginning to feel the difference more clearly than ever. For someone who values connections so deeply, it can be easy to stretch, to compromise, to give the benefit of the doubt, even when your own inner voice whispers otherwise. But that whisper is growing stronger now, not to push love away, but to help you love yourself better through every bond you choose to maintain or release. True love, the kind you're being prepared to receive, doesn't require you to sacrifice your boundaries to prove your worth. It doesn't ask you to over-explain your silence or apologize for needing space. You are not meant to dim your light in exchange for closeness. Instead, real love aligns with clarity. It respects the lines you draw, not as rejection, but as truth. And for you, Libra, whose heart is as discerning as it is open, this truth is your compass. When you follow it, the right people don't fall away, they move closer, because they recognize your energy as safe, whole, and sincere. In relationships past, you may have given too much, not because you were naive, but because you believed in people's potential more than their patterns. That's changing now. You're learning to measure love not just by how much you feel, but by how free you are to be yourself within it. You're starting to ask healthier questions, not just, do they love me, but, does this connection honor me? That one shift alone can protect your peace in ways years of sacrifice never could. If you're single, know this: someone whose spirit resonates with yours is already moving in your direction. This person is balanced, thoughtful, and sees beauty not just in appearances, but in presence, in the way you think, feel, and hold space for others. You don't have to perform to attract this kind of bond. You simply need to keep showing up as your full, beautiful self. And if you're already in a relationship, this is a time of deep assessment. Are you building something mutual, or are you carrying it alone? The Two of Cups in reverse reminds us that disconnection sometimes begins when we ignore what's misaligned in hopes that it will fix itself. But when that card turns upright as it is beginning to for you, it signals that honest conversations, heartfelt clarity, and a return to emotional reciprocity are possible. Still, it must start with you. The most sacred boundaries are the ones you uphold even when no one is watching, because they are promises you've made to yourself, and those are not meant to be broken. Love is not meant to be a battlefield for self-worth. It is meant to be a sanctuary for growth. And sometimes, choosing peace means walking away from what once felt familiar, in order to welcome what finally feels right. There's a quiet strength in that, a strength that doesn't need to be loud to be undeniable. Like a scale that finds its balance after long being tipped, your heart is remembering what it feels like to stand evenly, without leaning too far to hold everything together. As you learn to say no with grace, to say yes with certainty, and to wait without bitterness for what truly honors you, you are embodying a kind of love that mirrors divine design, patient, wise, and beautifully whole. And when your heart beats in that rhythm, everything not aligned with it will gently fall away. Not as a punishment, but as protection. And in that letting go, you'll find what was meant for you all along, a love that doesn't just see you but truly holds you, completely and without condition. There's a quiet beauty in the way the universe speaks, not through thunder or lightning, but through patterns, moments, and signs so subtle they almost feel like whispers. For you, Libra, who already holds a natural sensitivity to energy, these signs may appear more frequently now. You might notice them in the timing of a number repeating, the soft resonance of music when you least expect it, or a small white flower blooming in a place you didn't see yesterday. These aren't coincidences. They're part of a larger conversation, one between your intuition and the energy field around you. Color, number, and symbol are languages of harmony. And for someone ruled by Venus, whose soul seeks equilibrium and beauty in all forms, these elements hold meaning beyond aesthetics. Take pastel blue, for instance, a hue that calms the mind, opens the throat chakra for truth-telling, and encourages clear, kind communication. When you surround yourself with soft greens, blush pinks, or pearl gray tones, you're not just making your space look nice. You're regulating your emotional body. You're inviting ease. You're signaling to your nervous system that safety, softness, and support are present. Numerology, 2, speaks volumes. The number 2, a symbol of duality, encourages you to find grace in contrast, to realize that opposition doesn't mean disconnection. In fact, two different truths can coexist peacefully, just like light and shadow. The number 6 brings reminders of unconditional love, empathy with discernment, and the kind of compassion that doesn't require self-sacrifice. Meanwhile, 11 is the gateway, a master number pointing to insight, awareness, and divine timing. If you've been seeing 1111 often, it's not just a visual cue. It's an invitation to pause and ask, am I in alignment right now? Often, you'll find that in that moment, something important is shifting in you. What's important to remember is that signs are not meant to control your decisions, they are meant to reflect your readiness. When you start to notice the same symbols appearing around you, it's usually because your spirit is prepared to receive their meaning. You're not being given direction from the outside, you're being shown that your inner compass is already tuned in. This is also a time to affirm your connection to your own energy field. One gentle reminder from sacred teaching encourages us to speak our truth with confidence and to walk with a peaceful certainty that we are not forsaken. If you've been doubting your direction, let your words be a tool to reset your path. Speaking something aloud, even a whisper, begins the process of transformation. Let this be your daily declaration: I am eternal harmony, and I attract only what reflects the light within me. And when doubt creeps in, which it sometimes will, return to what feels grounded. Look for signs in the smallest places, in colors, in music, in your breath. Your surroundings are always echoing something back to you. The more aware you become of those echoes, the more empowered you'll feel to move with intention. You don't need big, dramatic messages to confirm that you're on the right path. Often, it's the most delicate confirmation that carries the deepest truth. A balanced scale. A gentle breeze. A familiar scent. A moment of quiet between two beats of your heart. This is how the universe says, you're in the right place. Let those signs steady you. Let those colors soothe you. Let those numbers guide you not away from who you are, but back to the beauty of your natural rhythm. Because when you live from that space, everything meant for you starts finding its way to you effortlessly, silently, and without the need to chase. If you've made it here, Libra, I want you to take a deep breath, not just because we've reached the end of this reading, but because something within you is softening, releasing, and realigning. You don't need to fight to be seen anymore. You don't need to justify your feelings, your choices, or your stillness. You have carried so much quietly, gracefully, and today, perhaps for the first time in a long while, you are being reminded that your harmony is not weakness, it is your quietest, most profound form of power. Balance has never meant staying silent at all costs. It has meant listening deeply, discerning carefully, and then choosing what honors your peace. And what you've done today by being here, by opening your heart to this message, is a quiet revolution, a return to self-respect, to inner alignment, to the kind of beauty that radiates from the inside out. That, Libra, is what makes you magnetic. That is what makes you whole. The justice you seek is not delayed, it's being woven into your path with divine precision. Every time you chose kindness over reaction, presence over pressure, truth over performance, the universe took note. And now, it is responding, not with chaos, but with clarity. This is not about vengeance. This is about remembering your values so deeply that no one ever gets to determine it for you again. So let me ask you now, what would change in your life if you truly believed that your peace is sacred? What decisions would you make if you knew without a doubt that you are fully supported in choosing what aligns with your heart? What would happen if you finally released the guilt around saying no, and saw it as an act of love for yourself, and for those meant to meet you in truth? Maybe this is your moment to reflect. Maybe it's your moment to reimagine. Or maybe it's simply your moment to rest, to stop carrying what was never yours, and start calling in what has always been meant for you. And if something in this reading stirred something deep inside you, a memory, a truth, a feeling you haven't allowed yourself to feel in a while, I invite you to bring that forward. Share it in the comments. Say it out loud. Or simply write, I choose harmony that honors my soul. Let this be your declaration, not to the world, but to yourself. Before you go, let me say thank you. Thank you for showing up today, not just to this video, but to yourself. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot strengthens this sacred circle of healing, truth, and remembrance. Your presence here has meaning. You are not just passing through, you are part of something unfolding, something beautiful. So stay close. Stay kind. And stay grounded in the quiet, knowing that the balance you seek is already on its way to meet you. You don't have to shout for justice, it is already walking in your direction, silently, steadily, and with unwavering grace. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What is one moment in your life when you chose kindness over retaliation? When you honored balance instead of chaos? Leave it below, because your story just might be the light someone else needs to read today. Until next time, this is Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where your soul is always seen, always heard, and always honored.